to this computer. All right, there we go. All right, hello and welcome to this May meeting of the Patterson Park Community Association. And we have taken a break from the politicians actually this month. We are going to have some other people speaking for us today, but don't worry, we'll be back to people seeking elected office next month, but also a little bit later this month. I'll tell you about that later. But to begin with, I'll just do some quick introductions. My name is Ernest. I am the president of the Patterson Park Neighborhood Association. And I'm just going to ask all of you to go ahead and type into the chat with your name. And if you're a neighbor, go ahead and type whereabouts you live, like 200 block of Northport or whatever that is. If you are a board member, go ahead and type in your position as well. Or if you're a committee chair, type in that as well. Okay. Now, I think that we're just going to go ahead and I know that Larry has to get going, so I'm going to go ahead and pass the floor over to Larry to make his announcement.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to speak to you from DPW. We are getting ready for the May 21st event, which is the same day as the Preakness. If you haven't heard of our event, which is called Big Truck Day, it's in a time in which we bring out all the big trucks on display, and it has an opportunity for your children to come out and enjoy a beautiful day with food trucks and all of the museum at President and Pratt Street, 1 block off of Pratt, right there by the parking lot where the Pier 6 is, if they still call it that. I'm a little old, so they may change the name. But it'll be all of the different vehicles from the fire department, DP, all our agencies, the huge ones, the ones that have got a couple of kids. There'll be IDs being made for the kids, registering them. So it's a great day for you to, if you don't have tickets to the Preakness or a party to go to, a good day to be downtown and just bring your kids out. We are celebrating the Public Works Week that same day. And there'll be tours of our museum. It's right there, the building that's right there, close to the Pier 6. So I just wanted to make that quick announcement so everybody who had not gotten the actual press release and went to all the presidents of associations, could see out. If you didn't, my email address is, please just send me a, we'll get it to you.
All right. And Larry, would you mind just typing the date for that event into the chat as well, if you can? I think he might have been frozen. Well, anyway, great. Thanks for that, Larry. And got you. Okay. Anyway, got you. So the next up on our agenda, I should have pulled up the agenda actually. Give me just 1 second, just make sure I'm not going to miss anything here. All right, here we go. So our first speaker for tonight is going to be Alice Kennedy. She's from the Baltimore City Department of Housing and Community Development, also called DHCD. This was honestly a point. I reached out to Alice because I wanted to, get to know a little bit more about our city government. And whenever people talk about Baltimore city government, they're usually talking to the mayor, DPW, the police, the liquor board. And I wanted to highlight a little bit of some of the work that other people in our city do. So Alice, I'm going to just hand the floor over to you. And as I told you in email, I didn't have anything particular that I wanted to go over. I just wanted you to introduce yourself and talk about the great work that DHCD does. So whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Great, thanks, Ernest, and good evening, everybody. It's good to see some familiar names, some familiar faces on the call tonight. I'm Alice Kennedy. I am Commissioner for the Department of Housing and Community Development. I have a couple of staff members with me this evening. I have Nicole Hart is here. Nicole is Deputy Commissioner for our Division of Homeownership and Housing Preservation. I also have with me this evening is Dave McGinnis, who is our Director of, I think that's what we call it, is it Director of our Special Investigations Unit. And we should have someone else joining us too, a little bit from our Code Enforcement Division, Emergency Management Division. But overall, just wanted to start out with thanking everybody for having us this evening to just talk a little bit about the work that DHCD does. I'll give you a quick kind of overview, and then we're happy to answer any questions that anybody has or provide any guidance on different things. But overall, the Department of Housing and Community Development, it used to be called Baltimore Housing. So years ago, some people might still just say, oh, well, housing or Baltimore Housing. And then in 2016, really the effort was done to separate under the Baltimore Housing moniker two different agencies, one which is the Department of Housing and Community Development, and the other which is the Housing Authority of Baltimore City, which has its own executive director, Janet Abrahams, and is really solely focused on public housing, Section 8 housing vouchers, and other items along those lines, geared mostly towards federal HUD funding and so forth on the HABC side. For us at the Department of Housing and Community Development, we have a number of different divisions, specifically 5 divisions. Nicole is deputy, like I said, for home ownership and housing preservation, which covers a lot of awesome programs that can help neighbors across your community as well as across the city. The Office of Home Ownership is in that division. So if anybody's ever received down payment or closing cost assistance with purchasing a property from the city, that will go through there. Our weatherization department, our lead hazard reduction program, tax sale prevention coordination is in that. Our Office of Rehabilitation Services, which helps some of our lower income homeowners with home repair needs. And then some of our solar and our low income solar work as well. And then any rental assistance. And currently, and in a little bit, I'll have Nicole give some information just for anybody that might need it. They're also running some other programs like our COVID-related emergency mortgage relief program. So that division really is kind of around, like I said, it's helping to prevent blight. It's helping to assist new homeowners with purchasing a home, and then also geared with existing homeowners. Our division of litigation, of permits and litigation, is actually our building permits and everything building permit related, as well as kind of property related litigation. And this is the division actually where Dave McGinnis and our Special Investigations Unit falls. So that is everything from applying for a building permit to if there's a zoning issue or zoning challenge which within a community. If we have any businesses that are operating, Dave's team participates in a special task force that also looks and goes out through a number of businesses, sometimes in the evenings, and checks to make sure things are operating above board. Also, any illegal dumping would be investigated by Dave's team as well. And then when you hear about things like receivership, where we're tackling a vacant building through filing a receivership case, that is in our division of permits and litigation under Deputy Commissioner Jason Hessler, who's not with us this evening, but just a key name to think about. Our code enforcement and emergency management division is with Deputy Eric Booker. They're out doing regular kind of property maintenance and inspections on a regular basis throughout the community. They're the ones that are out investigating and writing citations for everything from high grass and weeds to vacant buildings, to some issues, improper trash handling, etc. And then also help on our operation side in case of emergency components such as a building collapse or other components like that. We also have a division that's dedicated to community development block grant funding and all of our kind of federal funding sources that come to help support different programs, whether or not it be within the agency itself or partner agencies such as Mayor's Office of Homeless Services, and Rec and Parks, and also supplying support to a number of nonprofit organizations across the city as well. And then to round it out, we have our development division, which focuses on both kind of the sale of city-owned property on which can range from a single family residential row home that's vacant to a larger site or larger city-owned building, school buildings, etc. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund is within the development division. Our Community Catalyst grant program sits within that division. And then we also have our kind of research. We have a research and policy section. That's not really a division with the deputy, but we do a lot of research and policy analysis on best practices for housing and community development. We work extremely closely with the Housing Authority on a number of different projects. I think, Ernest, one of the projects that you saw that kind of sparked this too is the work that we've done in partnership with the Housing Authority on the O'Donnell Heights kind of master plan and redevelopment, and some support that will be there for that development happening. But overall, the agency has a wide range of activities that we do and that we engage in. Like I said, everything from permits all the way to code enforcement, to providing grants and incentives for home buying, affordable housing development within the city, and then also neighborhood development. We work closely with Baltimore Development Corporation, the Main Streets program, and how can we also kind of broaden and support communities across the city to be vibrant, engaging, livable, exciting neighborhoods that everybody wants to live in. So, we have a dedication right now. We actually are doing some work. We're in the process of hiring the agency's first full-time dedicated equity officer for a housing agency. We did not, prior to me coming in as commissioner, have a full-time 100% solely focused equity person. So we're in the process of hiring that. We're working in partnership with the planning department on a middle neighborhoods strategy around supporting middle neighborhoods across the city. We work very closely with other organizations such as Live Baltimore and the Live Baltimore team, and Annie Milley and her team on growing the city's population, looking at housing across the board. She's a big component and part of our middle neighborhood strategy as well. And also partner with Rec and Parks on a regular basis. DPW, I saw that Mr. Nunley was on earlier. So, we do a lot of work in partnership as well with our fellow city agencies to help with items across our communities, and how best to kind of tackle some of the things that come up, whether or not it be a citation that's needed for something on a property, or helping with a nuisance business, or kind of how to tackle something there. So overall, I think I also wanted to just be available to you all and let you know that us as an agency at DHCD, we're able to help and be a support to anyone that's needed. I'll put my email address in the chat here in a little bit, but just want to know that we're here to help and support neighborhoods as best as we can with priorities and work that you have. So I also like to just open it up for any questions or comments from the community to see if there's any specific items or anything we can help guide on or provide information for as well.
Oh, I guarantee you are going to have questions. There are lots of people who are very concerned about code enforcement. Did you say that you were going to hand it off to somebody else to talk a little bit too, or?
Yeah, I'm gonna before we get into code enforcement here, I want if Nicole, Deputy Commissioner Hart, will share a little bit of information. This is something that I encourage everybody to take back to your neighborhood um, to see if we could help anybody with. But we do have an application open for emergency mortgage assistance related to COVID impacts, and want to make sure that we're getting the word out about that as broadly as we can. So
Okay.
Deputy Hart.
Hi, good evening. I'm glad to be with you. So back on April 15th, we launched the Emergency Mortgage and Homeowner Assistance Program through DHCD. We do have an online application portal to be able to apply. And we assist with any back mortgages for a 6-month time period. And the start date of your COVID impact is March 2020. So if you have, or you know someone who is behind on their mortgage, we can assist with at least 6 consecutive months of that mortgage. And with a basic self-attestation, which means you can just self-attest what your COVID-related impact is. With this program, we're also able to assist with property tax. So if someone is delinquent in their property tax after March 2020, and we can relate it to a COVID impact, we're able to help with property tax as well as delinquent water bills as well. And so, like I said, the portal is online. We also have a paper application if needed, and we are able to assist over the phone. And we also take walk-ins at 417 East Fayette Street. We're at Suite 1125. I'll put our information in the chat, and I'm available if you have any questions in regards to that.
Great.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So we'll open this up to questions now. While we're waiting for people to, by the way, if you want to ask a question, you can either use the raise your hand function, or you can just type it into the chat, and I'll be happy to repeat that to everybody. Oh, okay, here we go. Lindsay, I saw your hand up first. Lindsay Graham.
Hi. Well, first of all, thank you, DHCD folks, for joining us today. We really appreciate you all taking the time to speak to us and give us a chance to ask questions. So regarding problem properties, specifically those whose landlords are not keeping their properties up, which do have active tenants, can you give us some specific resources for assisting those tenants as the neighborhood pursues action against the landlord for issues with their property?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a couple things. One, our first question, if we get an inquiry or a 311 complaint or SR or direct email about a specific property, we first look on our side in terms of code enforcement and permits and litigation to ensure that the property is actively both registered and licensed, right? So there is a rental licensing law that needs to be followed. There's also a registration. All non-owner occupied properties within the city of Baltimore are required to be registered on a yearly basis. And that includes a rental property, which would need to be both registered and licensed. And we have two different routes, of course, that would be taken. One is if we're working with a landlord on code enforcement or code enforcement violation issues, if they're licensed versus if they're unlicensed, and trying to work with them to get their licensing. One of the key resources for any tenant, whether or not they are, disputing paying rent or have opened a rent escrow case or something, we highly encourage all tenants to contact one of the many different legal service providers that exist within the city that are able to assist them with either ensuring that they are following what needs to follow for rent escrow, or can help also find or look for new or different accommodations if, let's say, it happens to be an unlicensed landlord and it ends up that they need to move from there. So some examples are, the Public Justice Center is a key partner of ours when it comes to landlord and tenant works and support from a legal standpoint, as well as Maryland Legal Aid. But all of those would be some resources when looking at what could be given to the tenant in terms of getting them the assistance that they need to navigate their situation from a legal standpoint in terms of what their rights are and how best to navigate that with either a landlord that is needing to take better steps and is licensed versus someone that is not licensed and also needs to take steps in that regard. Does that help, Lindsay?
It does, yes. And so in the case of a property that is registered and licensed, I think there's actually a neighbor who's joining us in a moment who lives next door to this property. If the conditions were found, like, what does DHCD do in terms of enforcement or investigation when there's a strong suspicion that the inspection should not have passed?
So the biggest thing for us is that we have to be able to gain access to the property.
Okay.
And in some instances, right, we might get a 311 SR, which it could be a neighbor that's called in the 311 service request for a interior inspection. The biggest piece is that our code enforcement team needs to be able to gain access to the property, which means that the tenant has to allow us to have access to the property to do the interior property maintenance inspection. And then if there were items that were found during that interior property maintenance inspection, then the proper citations and violations would be issued to the landlord, who would then have a certain number of days, et cetera, to respond to that citation violation, to have the items corrected, and then go from there if it was found to not meet the standards that were set for their license, or also any other violations or items that come up. So the key piece for us in terms of being able to do an investigation of any kind is being able to gain access to the interior of the property to complete that inspection, which we can't go into a property without the permission of the tenant.
Okay. And then, let's say that, you are able to gain access to the property. What are the kinds of things that you're generally looking for? Is there a place where, that we can look at what criteria you are using for that?
Yeah, overall, it's the property maintenance code. And, it's also key life and safety components. So, are there holes in the walls? Is the plumbing working? Is there any, are there working smoke detectors in the property? Is there anything that is also of a danger to the tenant? Because there are some things, right, that we've gone into properties where it's not necessarily the property itself, but we've gone into some situations where it's the tenant themselves. So we're trying to determine when we do interior inspections, what is specific to the property, which is working electricity, working plumbing, safe staircases, handrails, no falling down walls, anything that would be an immediate danger to life and safety, which kind of cover those key components to whether or not a unit is deemed to be habitable or is not. And that's the other thing is there anything that would deem that property at that exact moment to be inhabitable, which is another kind of route that we need to take? Or is it that, the smoke detectors need to be fixed, or a hole in the wall needs to be addressed, or a door, doesn't close properly, or, things along those lines, which can each kind of add up in terms of individual citations.
Okay,
Mr.
great,
Kennedy, can I
thank you.
piggyback a little bit on that?
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Yes, she introduced me. My name's Dave McGinnis. I'm the director of the Special Investigation Unit. Code-wise, Baltimore City has adopted the International Code Council codes, currently the 2018 edition. So the standard dwelling codes you would see would be the 2018 International Property Maintenance Code. And that would cover smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, interior, exterior requirements. And that's the standard they are to be held to. And again, when the third-party inspectors are conducting these inspections, they have a checklist provided by us that they have to certify, and these are all people licensed by the state of Maryland as home inspectors. So if they're not doing their job, you can refer that one through 311 as well, and we will have one of our property maintenance inspectors who is certified can actually go out there and almost re-inspect the inspector to make sure they're following the codes and not just rubber stamping something so someone can get licensed.
Okay. Hey, Ernest, do you mind if Andy's had a chance to join us? Andy, do you have a couple of questions you'd like to ask about this specific topic?
Hey, yeah. Thank you, Lindsay, and thanks everybody. Appreciate the time. I'm listening to the responses to a scenario where you've got a house, it's out of code. Because I've run into a similar situation next door at 2316. And there's a couple of problems I have. The first problem is that it sounds like we have a gap with the whole permission thing, because if you have a landlord that doesn't want city inspections to come inside, then it's pretty easy, it sounds like, to just not be available. Am I hearing that correctly? Or is there another way to, escalate an issue if it gets to that point?
So it's not the landlord that has to give permission, it's the tenant that has to give permission.
Okay, so then in that scenario, I've actually had permission from the tenants and 311 City Services. I've got it all documented in an Excel spreadsheet. And basically they would, like, within 24 hours say 3 attempts closed, 3 attempts closed. Meanwhile, I'm sending over official reports from third-party investigators. I've got participation in emails from the tenants. They won't, I guess, get into contact with the tenants. So it's a city services issue here, it's a city services gap in getting this home inspected.
So that actually, I'd want a little bit more. So I would need to get, Andy, your contact information and the specific address that's in question. And we need to go back and just talk with staff to figure out why we haven't made it inside to do that interior inspection.
Yeah,
so
that'd be great.
if you can send me an email directly, I put my email in the chat, but it's pretty easy. It's alice.kennedy@baltimorecity.gov. And I just need the property address and a contact for the tenant if you have that, and anything else. But
Yeah, I've got
and I can also have
pictures,
staff look up
videos. Yeah.
to see like what and how. And honestly, there are instances where we do go out and try to make an attempt at, and I've seen it happen both ways, where sometimes and I'm not saying in this situation, I'm just kind of throwing out all of the scenarios
Yeah,
that we
sure.
encounter, which sometimes a tenant to their neighbors is like, sure, come on in, take a look at the mess that I'm living in, and I can't get any help with my landlord. And then they let everybody in, and we all help, and we pull
That's
together
what
around
this
them.
scenario is. That's what this scenario is. The landlords, you know, they're actually kind of over it at this point because nothing happened. I actually feel really bad because, you know, I helped organize all of these things, and it was like there wasn't enough of an effort to gain access. It was just kind of like, well, try 3 phone calls,
Yeah.
close, and it just kind of happening over and over and over again.
Yeah,
It's
so
disappointing.
happy to help. Just send over the address, contact information, and we'll see what we can do.
Okay, that sounds good. I appreciate it. Thank
Yep.
Okay. We also got a hand up from Arch McCown. Go ahead, Arch.
Hey, thanks, Alice, for that. Actually, Lindsay, you asked a lot of my question, and Alice answered most of it. So, but tangentially, sort of related, I have a question. I really appreciate the progress at O'Donnell Heights. And I was wondering what's the progress with Perkins Homes? I know we're in the midst of this affordable housing crisis across the country and Baltimore also. And, you know, I drive by there to and from work every day, and I'm like, you know, it seems kind of stalled as far as this demolition. And I'm wondering, is it on schedule? Is it, you know, maybe you don't have to go in major detail, but I'm just curious what's happening with that because I
There's
couldn't see
a
anything.
lot. So the Perkins Somerset Old Town Transformation Plan, as the official name of that entire project, is actually definitely moving forward and moving along. There's actually a topping off ceremony on Wednesday for the second kind of phases of Somerset, which are clipping away at construction. The first building opened, and we did a ribbon cutting and then a groundbreaking on the same day. We cut the ribbon on the brand new building at Somerset 1, which is right on Central, and then also broke ground on the next phases of Somerset. Perkins is also moving along. They've completed demolition. They're going to closing. You know, there are still plans there as well. There'll be a brand new City Springs Elementary School that will be constructed. The existing one, it will be closing and moving. We're going to take down the old Lombard School that's across the street, build a brand new school, and move City Springs over there. So it is moving forward. It's part of a Choice Neighborhoods grant from HUD. And it's all on really tight timelines with both Janet Abrahams and the HABC team are the lead in terms of city agencies on that project. We're a supporting agency to that. But they're the ones with the agreements with the developers at the table and are definitely holding everybody's feet to the fire on the deadlines and timelines that are needed for that. So you'll see more happening on the Perkins side in the next 3 to 6 months, absolutely. But if you check out the Somerset portion a little bit further north, it's pretty awesome to kind of see a brand new, you know, building where residents that had, you know, from Somerset have moved back in. These are all, the development is set up as, you know, kind of mixed income, 80-20 type. So there is one building, you know, you're going to have HABC residents living right next door and within, you know, market rate residents, and everybody, instead of concentrating buildings and concentrating poverty, this is a mixed income focused development of inclusiveness. Also, a new park is being built, North Central Park, which is actually, I think it has a new name to it, and now I'm forgetting that name, but I will remember it next time I put it in. But there's a lot of good stuff happening, and it is moving forward for sure.
Thanks. I really appreciate the update. It's very exciting.
Okay, and we got a hand up from Joshua. I'm going to say that we need to move things along. So if we can take about 3 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes.
All right, I will try to be brief. First, I just wanted to say hi and thank you for attending our meeting. I actually work on the ERAP program, the eviction prevention program down in Anne Arundel County, and so I thought I would just ask. I've just been curious because I've been so engrossed in that effort down a little bit southways that I don't have so much of an awareness of how those efforts are going on in the city. My understanding, and this is a little serendipitous, I actually got a phone call from someone from the city today that received assistance previously and was just making phone calls looking for other resources. So first question is, my understanding was that the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success was facilitating rent assistance, and I was wondering if you guys intersected with that at all. But also, for when I do get those phone calls at work, where are some good resources for those individuals that are out, they missed the last application deadline, or they have received assistance previously and are struggling with a smaller amount?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the Mayor's Office of Children and Family Success is the lead on our emergency rental assistance program that's COVID related. The program that Deputy Hart mentioned earlier is the new program, which is geared towards homeowners that had a COVID impact. So we're running the emergency mortgage assistance program. I would say that they still have money that they are processing and applications. So it never hurts because they have different funding streams that anybody that received assistance, depending upon the timeline, should still reach back out to MOCFS to ask if there's a new or different funding stream that could assist them now. I would put that out there as a first place to start with. I would also say that they can always reach out to our light intake and assessment unit to just ask for any other resources that they might be able to be geared towards, for some nonprofit partners, etc. But MOCFS is the lead. They've been actively moving money. I know that there still is somewhere, I know there's at least $6 million more that they're moving out on the street. And I actually think it's even more than that they have to move out for applications at this point.
Thank you. And I might shoot an email for my work email if that's all right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thanks.
All right, thank you very much. I'm sorry we have to keep moving, but I really appreciate all the work that you're doing, and I really appreciate you coming here to speak to all of us. So any of you who have other questions, or if you want to get help with any properties, again, that email address is alice.kennedy@baltimorecity.gov. And we are recording all of this, and we also have a chat log. So we will be including all of this when we send out a blast email. Okay, so next up, we've got an announcement actually from Kim Wiggins. Kim, this is going to be, I'm really excited about this. So Kim, take it away. Oh no, we dropped her. Oh, okay. Okay, while we're waiting for that, why don't we move on to the next speaker, and we'll wait for Kim to get back here. So we've got, let me just check my thing here. Okay, Jonathan Susman. I'm sorry, am I pronouncing your name right? Susman?
Yes, you've got it.
Okay, so Jonathan Susman is here from you're from the Maryland Transit Administration, right?
Correct.
Okay. And I think you said that you also have some other people who are going to be here with you, but I don't know who they are. So I'm just going to hand it to you. And if you want to introduce anybody else, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Ernest. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Oh, are you able to share your screen? Do I have to give you admin access or something?
I think it seems like it's working for me.
We're not seeing anything.
Yeah,
Oh, wait, there we go.
Oh.
Yep. Okay, we got it.
okay, that is actually a different thing. Let me pull up. I've got a lot of things open, pardon me. Here we go. All right. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay,
Raise Transit
wonderful.
Priority Project.
Yes, yeah, that's correct. All right. Well, I'm Jonathan Susman. I work for the MTA Department of Planning, and I work in community outreach. And I want to share with you all about the Raise Transit Priority Project. It is a project that is, so there's a kind of a lot of things that MTA is working on right now in the East-West corridor. We've got our short-term stuff. We are on an ongoing basis. We are consistently, looking at modifying our routes, looking where there is increased demand. And this year, we are proposing the return of what used to be like the Quick Bus. We're calling it the Quick Link 40. And this would be a limited stop service from Westgate out to the Essex Park and Ride. So those are some short-term efforts. Midterm is what I'm going to spend most of today talking about. And those are improvements to the CityLink Blue and the CityLink Orange. And those, if you're not familiar, those run right next to Patterson Place. They run along Fayette Street. Both of them do. And those are two of our highest ridership routes. And so the RAISE project is a $50 million investment of federal as well as state and city dollars to do improvements along this corridor. And so I'm going to spend most of the time talking about this. At the end, I'm going to touch upon some long-term efforts that are going on, and you'll hear more about soon. But this is a partnership between the MTA as well as the Department of Transportation for Baltimore City. So I've got Alicia Lorber, who is here on the call, and I believe there may be somebody else as well from the city. So I will be speaking, but they are here and available to answer questions because I know that there are probably questions that you have that I can't answer, but that they can or can get you an answer. So again, the RAISE project corridor, two of our highest ridership routes in the system. Before the pandemic, each of them had over 9,000 trips a day. Even during the pandemic, they've still retained much of their ridership. And obviously it passes through downtown. And so, it's a very highly used corridor, very important connection for people traveling east to west, as well as from East and West Baltimore to downtown and parts in the county as well. So the improvements that we are looking at, and $50 million is it's a lot of money, but there's also in terms of infrastructure, it can be pretty limited. But what we are planning and looking at is at least 10 miles of dedicated bus lanes. And along with that, at least 10 miles of transit signal priority, which enables the buses to either extend or shorten a light based on what they need in order to move faster. We're looking at least 100 bus stops, bringing some kind of improvements to that bus stop. That could be a bus shelter, it could be new benches or trash cans, increased pedestrian lighting, as well as a big focus is ADA compliance upgrades. We recognize that a lot of our bus stops and a lot of the intersections leading up to our bus stops are not ADA compliant. That's an ongoing project that the city is also working on. And beyond that, we're really we're really trying to center pedestrian and bicycle safety as well. So this is a transit priority project, but we're thinking through the lens, how are people getting to and from the bus stop? And so we are looking at trees and lighting and other sidewalk improvements, as well as we're studying a bike connection between downtown Baltimore and the West Baltimore MARC transfer station. Again, this is mostly transit and then, also pedestrian and bike, but we're also in partnership with BG&E planning on adding at least 25 vehicle charging stations in this corridor as well. This is a sample rendering, and this isn't exactly what it's going to look like, but this is an example of what it could look like along Fayette Street, east of Front Street. So this is kind of right after you get out of downtown. The post office is on the left. And as you can see, there is the bike lane. There's increased pedestrian lighting and some trees and other things to make the corridor more inviting and safer for people as they travel. We are trying to do a pretty robust public outreach. We are really trying to center the voices of transit riders, people who are actually going to be most impacted in a positive way by the work that we're doing. And so really wanting to get their feedback about which bus stops we should prioritize adding bus shelters, or what are some problem intersections where we should be looking at improvements, whether that's crosswalks or other things. So in order to do that, we have been going to transit stops, talking to people. We've that kiosk that you can see, giving out surveys and flyers, directing people to the website, but also, getting their feedback right then and there. We've also been, because we recognize that students make up at least or close to 20% of our ridership on a weekday, we have been reaching out to high schools in the corridor. That actually should say 4 high schools in the corridor, developing relationships with students and staff members. We've had some pop-up events there as students are getting out of class in order to talk to them, as well as looking for some other ways to get more focused interaction and feedback from the students. We are so there's a website which I would encourage you all to go to. It's raisebaltimore.com. And if you have your phone on you, you can also scan the QR code on the screen to go and take a survey. If there's anything that you get from this, I would love for you to go and take the survey. We want to get as many of those as we can. But we also have, e-blasts and social media and other ways that we are engaging folks using our different platforms. The schedule for this, this is spring 2022. We have just begun the design phase. And so we're kind of taking a lot of the feedback that we've already gotten, as well as the feedback we're continuing to get, on starting to let that inform, where we're looking at for improvements. But we're also going to be doing public outreach through the whole phase or through every phase of this project. Engineering would be next year, 2023, and then construction would be 2024 to 2027. That's when it would be completed. That, I know that was a lot. I went through it quickly. I would encourage you to go to raisebaltimore.com in order to get more information. I also wanted to talk a little bit about some stuff that's happening long term that also, has the potential to be really beneficial for Patterson Place and the surrounding areas. And that is the regional transit corridor study that MTA has also been doing. So again, this is long term. The RAISE is more midterm improvements to existing service, whereas on the transit corridor studies are thinking about what new transit needs to happen. And so, you know, what we've been starting out with are two of our, let's see, okay, here we go. Two of our biggest corridors, which would be the north-south and the east-west. Again, that, you know, is in the same area where the RAISE project is going on. And starting with no predetermined routes or modes in mind, doing an in-depth study and narrowing down to 7 options, which we're calling alternatives. And in the plan is that at the end of this month or in early June, we're going to be doing public outreach where we're actually going to be sharing what we've learned in these studies with the public and getting feedback about which 2 to 3 options should move on to get further study. So we wouldn't be at a place of you know, just selecting one. We would be narrowing to you know, smaller group that then would get further study before being narrowed to the preferred alternative, at which point we would apply for funding and all of that. So this is kind of a long way away, but we really are going to be getting, you know, working to get feedback from you all pretty soon. So stay tuned. I hope to be back maybe in a month or 2 to share some more about this. I do have on the screen, this is kind of the preliminary alternatives, but it's very detailed. And so I'll let you, you know, I'll send this over to Ernest and he can pass it along to you. But I won't spend much time talking about this. Does anyone have any questions? I see the chat has been blowing up. So I'm going to go ahead and now take a look.
Yeah, and actually, I'm sorry, we need to move this along because we try to keep these down to about an hour. But what I will say is that the chat has been active, and Alicia has been answering very thoroughly. And so I will say that if anybody has any other questions, go ahead and put them into the chat. And also, if you could, Jonathan, when you send me everything else, if you could also include the link to the survey that you're doing, and then we'll be happy to blast that out to all of our membership and make sure that they can fill that out for you. Okay.
Sure, I will do that. And yes, thank you, Alicia, for responding. If there's any questions that we missed, we'll make sure to follow up and answer those.
Great. Thank you very much. So we are now at the community announcements portion of our meeting. And Kim, are you with us now?
Yes. Can you
Okay.
see me? Okay. I'm on my phone because my computer's acting crazy. So it seems like I have 3 minutes, but I can do it. Sure, everybody who knows me is like, no, you can't. But anyway, so quick announcement. The home tour is back. So I don't know. Yay! No. Sadly, I can't see everybody's faces, but some of you may be new and you may be like, what is the home tour? So Butchers Hill has one that they've had for decades. And Patterson Park also has one that hasn't been around for as long, but it is just as exciting, if I dare say more. Sorry, Butchers Hill. But what it is it's a fundraiser for Patterson Park where we sell tickets and people volunteer their homes for people to walk through and see things like, how did you fit a sofa in this row home? How did you get to this deck? Did you have to cut a hole in your wall? Just things like that, because we all know that we want to see what people are doing inside their homes. How do you hang pictures on a brick wall? Just things like that. So the home tour is historically the last Sunday in September. So this year it'll be September 25th. What we've done in the past is we divide the neighborhood into sectors, because if you've seen the neighborhood map, it's very large. So we don't want people to volunteer their homes and then people to not come because they decide not to walk that far. What I will say this year is I'm not sure where the tour will be. It should have been in 2020. It should have been the west sector. Where do I live? The west sector. But now I'm just not sure. So what I'm asking for, and we'll send a notice out, is volunteers. So you can, if you're interested in having your home on the home tour, so if you've done some fabulous pandemic renovation or whatever, and you're like, I need somebody to see all the work that I did besides like my family, then you should email me at home tour at what is it, Patterson Park Neighbors? I'm sorry.
Home tour at pattersonparkneighbors.org.
Yes, .org. I'm sorry. I was like, I knew the first part and I forgot the last part. So you can email me there if you want to volunteer to put your home on the home tour. And if you have questions, feel free to ask, because right now it just sounds weird. But if you're just like, I wouldn't mind showing people my house, you know, we have a process for around it. Honestly, we've done this for years. So just email me. Once I see how many people are just interested in doing it, we'll try to see where we have critical mass and do the tour around that. That's probably what makes sense for this year. The other thing about the home tour is in past, people have like had food at the home tour. So food and drink. I honestly don't know what's going to happen in September. So like a lot of things are on the table. Like, so it might just be mass people going through your house. Like we'll just have to see and we'll determine. Aside from volunteers to put your house on the home tour, I also need volunteers to stay in people's homes like during the home tour. That sounds weird too, but it's a very easy volunteer. Also, I need volunteers to help get ads because like I said, this is a fundraiser and we do produce a booklet and we would like to sell ads for the booklet. I will have a meeting at my house sometime. I'm not sure, haven't planned that out. There's always food at meetings in my house. You should definitely come. There's a deck. So if you're interested in being on the home tour, volunteering for the home tour, if you just want to come and find out more stuff, I'll figure out the date soon. We'll probably start actively working on it. I was about to say May, but it is May now. But sometime in May, we'll probably have a meeting about this, maybe early June, and just get the logistics down. So the date that you have to remember is Sunday, September 25th. The last thing I'll say is if you're on the home tour or volunteer for the home tour, we do a walkthrough the night before. It's called the stroll. So it's for two reasons. When you're on the tour, it's hard to see people's homes. And lots of times you're like, oh, I wish I had seen people's homes. And then the other thing, it's so that you are not deciding to tile your bathroom the night before the tour, which when I say this has happened, I'm not even lying. So, so we're trying to get you to stop all work and go out and have fun and look at the homes and just have a relaxing home tour. Like I said, if you have any questions, email me. I'm also on Facebook. You can contact me that way. And I am very excited that the home tour is back. Any questions in a minute? Or you could just email me questions.
Yeah, I'm perfectly happy to say that I missed the home tour. It was always the highlight of the year. Every year living in this neighborhood, got to see some incredible properties. So I highly encourage everybody who is available to volunteer either your house or volunteer to help out. I certainly will be. And then so to keep things moving along, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to open this up for other community announcements. And I'm going to tell you all, just hang on a little bit, because there is an announcement that I want to make about something that PPNA is doing. And I'm going to save that for right at the end. So that's my attempt to get you to stick on here. But other announcements from the community, anything else that you've got coming up? I think I saw Chanel saying that you've got a cleaning coming up. Is Chanel still on?
Yes, howdy neighbors, I'm still
Hi.
here. I have a community cleanup coming up March 21st. Supplies will be, no, sorry, not March, May. May
Yeah.
21st. Starting at 10 a.m. on the corner of Noble and North Highland Avenue. Supplies will be provided, but the more supplies, the merrier. And that's all I have.
Great, thank you.
Chanel, can you repeat those? Where is it? Noble and North Highland Ave?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
You said it's taking place on the corner of Noble and what was the other street?
North Highland. I usually do it the last Saturday of the month, but because the last Saturday of this month is a holiday weekend, I decided to do it on the 21st this time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Other announcements from the community?
Hello. Hi everyone. I already put it on the chat box. I'm Abraham from the Parks and Park Audubon Center. Just to invite you all to Birding in Saturday, May 28th, and also our Audubon Baltimore Birding Weekend, which is happening this weekend. And I left the link in the chat as well if you want to look for more information. And thank you for giving me the time to share this with the community.
Sure. this weekend is going to be busy because that's also when we've got the flea market, the Butchers Hill Flea Market happening in the park, which, by the way, PPNA is going to have a table there, and we're going to be selling swag like T-shirts and koozies and things like that. But that is not what I wanted to announce about. Oh, I see Danielle has put a announcement into the chat. Okay, great. And so what I wanted to tell you all, and we will be posting this in social media and sending out through email and everything as well, is May 24th, this upcoming May 24th, we are doing a candidates forum for the for delegates in District 46. So now, you may know that Brooke Learman is going to be leaving her position as our delegate in order to run for the Comptroller of Maryland. So that leaves an open seat. Of course, all three seats are actually up for re-election. In the Republican primary, there are 3 candidates. So if you are voting in the Republican primary, your choice is moot. There are 3 possible positions. There are 3 candidates. You're just going to, that's all the choice you have. However, in the Democratic primary, there are 6 candidates, including the 2 incumbents. So we have organized a candidates forum. This is going to be a joint effort, actually, between PPNA and Butchers Hill, Highlandtown, Upper Fells, and what's the other one that starts with B? Brewers Hill. And so I'm very proud of organizing all of this together. We have gotten commitments from all 6 candidates to show up to this candidates forum. It will take place over Zoom, so you don't have to travel anywhere to get there. And we will be sending out the link shortly. But also, this is going to be a forum where we are asking pre-selected questions, just because we want to keep things moving along as quickly as we can. So if there are questions that you want to ask to the candidates who are running to be your delegates in the Maryland General Assembly, send them to us. You can send it to, well, any number of ways that you want to send it. But I would suggest sending it to info@pattersonparkneighbors.org. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Or you can send it to me if you know my contact info, or you can find me on Facebook or anything like that. And make sure you come to this candidates forum May 24th. That is a Tuesday. I will be moderating, and the presidents of the other neighborhood associations will be asking the questions. We're very excited about this. It's taken a lot of effort to pull this together, but I think it's going to be really informative for all of you. So yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm really excited about this and everything that we're doing, but I think that's right. We have one more thing that thank you, Kelly. We have one more thing that I wanted to announce, which is that the board has decided that we will allow someone who lives outside of a sector to run for a place on as a VP representing that sector. And what we are going to do is, as you know, the VP North position is currently unfilled, and we will be holding a special election at the next community meeting. That's the June meeting. So we wanted to announce that here to make sure that it's fair, and we will be announcing that on all of our channels as well. So it's going to be done in much the same way as our January election is done. All candidates who are declared or on the ballot will be able to make a statement about why they want to represent the North sector. If somebody who lives in the North sector is running, they will take priority. I want to make that very clear. But if we cannot find somebody who lives in that sector, we will open it up for candidates who live outside of the sector to run for that position, and they will make a statement. If I were you, just a little word of advice, I would give a little statement about what your ties are to the North Sector, even if you don't live there. But that's just me. And so yes, that will be happening at the next community meeting. So all of you come to the next community meeting prepared to listen to the candidates and prepared to vote. Okay, I'm going to take another couple of minutes to see if we have any other questions, comments, announcements for the good of the community, anything like that. I'm sorry, you're hearing my phone blowing up with text messages. But seeing none, thank you very much for coming. I think this was a really great discussion, and maybe I'll see you at the flea market this weekend. And if not, I hope to see you at the Candidates Forum on May 24th. And other than that, thank you all for coming, and we will call an end to the meeting.